Hello everyone and welcome back to the Millennial Investor Series. This week we're going to be talking about Treasury Bills and everything about Treasury Bills, right? So I'm going to be answering questions I get all the time, such as what exactly are Treasury Bills? Where can I buy Treasury Bills? How can I buy Treasury Bills, right? Who sells Treasury Bills? What's the minimum amount of money required to invest in Treasury Bills? And how exactly is my return calculated? I think that's actually a big question for most people, right? I'm going to try and do justice to all of these questions today. So let's start from the very beginning. What exactly are Treasury Bills? Treasury Bills are government-traded securities, right? So in very simple terms, think about it. The government needs to raise money, all right? The government has expenditure, just like you have expenditure, and the government needs to raise money. What do? They come to you through the CBN. The CBN is the Central Banking Authority. So they come to you, individuals, and they say that, can you borrow us money, right? So the government comes to meet you and say, can you borrow us some money so that we will pay you back at the end of a defined time? So that's exactly what Treasury Bills are. Treasury Bills are basically securities through which the government comes to raise money to meet their expenditure. And the CBN also uses it as a tool to manage money supply in the economy. So if they think that there's too much money in the economy, they say, oh, you guys have too much money. Let's go and take some money out of the economy. They come and give you Treasury Bills so that when you buy Treasury Bills, they take some money from you, all right? So in very simple terms, that's exactly what Treasury Bills are. So where or how can you purchase Treasury Bills? Now, Treasury Bills are usually issued by the Central Banking Authority. In Nigeria, it's the Central Bank of Nigeria, right? The CBN. Find out what the Central Banking Authority is in your country. But in Nigeria, we call it the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria. So they issue Treasury Bills in what is known as a primary market, all right? So they do like a fortnightly, every 2 weeks, auction, right? Where banks and financial institutions come to bid for Treasury Bills. And sometimes they do like an open market operation, which is a special case when they need to, monitor or kind of reduce the money supply in the economy. But most of the time they do it every 2 weeks. They come and they issue Treasury Bills and banks and financial institutions come to buy. So that's what happens in the primary market. But there's also a secondary market, right? So the CBN issues the bills in the primary market. That's where banks buy, financial institutions buy. But sometimes they want to trade. So for instance, a bank wants to sell it to you, an individual, or somebody who bought before wants to sell to another person. So that's what happens in the secondary market. The secondary market is where people that have bought before trade with one another. All right, think about it as a form of exchange for people that want to trade their Treasury Bills. And this is one of the reasons why they say Treasury Bill is one of the most liquid investment options, because you can easily sell it even before maturity. All right, so Treasury Bills have different lengths of maturity. You have the 91-day Treasury Bill, 182-day Treasury Bill, and also the 364-day Treasury Bill. You would get, depending on what you want, you can ask your banker to tell you which one is best, because each one of those tenors will attract different rates. All right? So the 91-day Treasury Bill will have a different rate from the 182-day Treasury Bill, and so will the 364-day Treasury Bill. Now, prior to April 2017, individuals could buy Treasury Bills themselves. They could actually bid, but not anymore, because the minimum required from the CBN to buy Treasury Bills directly from the CBN is 50 million naira, right? So now you need to go through your bank, all right, or through your financial institution. I know that there are some banking apps that actually enable you to invest with 100,000 naira, right? Check them out and get started investing. Treasury Bills are a great option because they are very liquid, right? So if you need cash, you can easily sell. Like unlike other investment options, if you invest in them, you have to wait until the tenure expires. And then they're also safe because you're lending to the government, right? The government is one of the safest institutions you can think about lending money to, all right? And then they offer you returns that is, give or take, pretty much stable, right? So that's another thing I want to get into. People always think that when they hear about the rate of Treasury Bill, they say, oh, Treasury Bill is going at 14% for a 364-day Treasury Bill, for instance. And then after a couple of months, it has dropped to 13% or it has dropped to 12%. And I'm like, why are the rates dropping, right? That's because a lot of time, the rates are dictated by what's happening in the economy. Like I said, remember, the government uses Treasury Bills to raise money or to attract investors, or to control money supply. So depending on what is going on in the economy at that time, the Central Banking Authority will decide what's the best rate to issue Treasury bill rate as. Now think about it, 4 or 5 years ago, right? I think about 10 years ago, Treasury bills were about 5%, because at that point, they didn't want to attract a lot of investors. Now, bring it down to about the time when Nigeria was going through the recession period, the CBN had to increase the rates to 18 to 25% because they needed to attract people into the economy. They also needed to ensure that people are not spending too much. They needed to monitor money supply. So there's so many things. So it's used as a tool sometimes. So because of that, the rates might change. You always need to ask your banker, what is the current rate on Treasury bill? Now, to the very important question a lot of people always ask, how exactly do they calculate this rate of return on Treasury bills? All right? So this is how it works. Treasury bills are discounted upfront. So for instance, if you want to invest 100,000 naira in Treasury bills, this is what will happen. Let's say the rate on that 364-day Treasury bill is 10%. You will actually be debited, your account will be debited of 90,000 naira. So it's discounted up front, right? So you're going to get your 10,000 naira interest immediately. And then when you are paid back at the end of the tenor, the government will pay you back 100,000 naira. So technically you have 110,000 naira. Okay? So it is discounted up front. So that is, given a scenario where it's 10% for a 365-day Treasury bill. All right? So that is how Treasury bills are paid. So for instance, if the rate on Treasury bill is 10% for a 364-day Treasury bill, and you want to invest in a 91-day Treasury bill, you would have to divide 10% by 364 days and then multiply that by 91 days, right? That would be the rate of return you would get on your 91-day Treasury bill, all right? So that's the way it works. If you also want to invest in a 182-day Treasury bill, you have to divide that rate by 364 days because the rates are annualized, all right? So if you hear 12%, it means that you're earning 12% per annum, all right? It doesn't mean you're earning 12% per month or 12%, fixed on whatever tenure you choose. It means that it is an annualized rate. So it has to be divided by a full annual period and then divided by the period of time that you choose to invest. So I hope this helps you understand how Treasury bills work, right? There are different ways to invest in Treasury bills, like I said. Go to your bank, ask questions, ask them for what the current rates are. And then there are also apps, investment apps that can help you invest in Treasury bills quite conveniently now, right? So it just makes things a lot easier for you. But remember, the minimum required for most people or for most banks is 100,000 naira. If you have less than 100,000 naira, then try mutual funds, right? That's also an option. On that note, I'll end this episode. If you have any more questions or comments about Treasury bills or any investment options, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and I'll get to it, all right? See you next week.